Welcome back, guys, to another chapter of Lord of the Mysteries. Today we are going to read chapter number 16. Yes, 16, called Rat Baiting with Dogs. And I don't have the faintest idea what it means, but we are going to read and we will find out as we read. And my hair is a bit messy right now because, first of all, haircuts is kind of pricey this time of the year, and I don't want to spend that much on my hair when I'm not even going out. I will cut my hair, I think, in 2 weeks before I go on before I go to my hometown. So, and after that I will regularly cut it because then I will go to college regularly. So I don't think I need to cut. So bear with this mess for a few videos, and let's continue Lord of the Mysteries chapter 16, Rat Waiting with Dogs. And it's a big chapter, so I will try to finish it a little bit faster. And subscribe to the channel if you haven't already, and let's get started. Phew, I got through that round with the medium. Klein let out a foul breath. He slowly turned around and enjoyed the cool breeze and tranquility of the night while walking closer and closer to the apartment building's door. He took out his keys, inserted the correct one in, and turned it gently, allowing the crimson mixed darkness to expand with the creaking sound of the open door. Walking on the staircase without a single person in sight and taking in the cold air, Klein had an inexplicable and amazing feeling. It felt like he had a few more hours than others. This caused him to hasten his pace. In a similar state of mind, he opened the door to his room, and before he even stepped inside, he saw a silhouette sitting silently in front of his desk. It had reddish black hair, brown eyes, and a delicate, pretty face. Undoubtedly, she was Melissa Moretti. Sorry, I just got a call, so I had to go, and it took some 10-15 minutes to resolve the situation. But I'm back, and let's continue from where we left off. I'm very sorry for that. I just pushed my microphone. Undoubtedly, she was Melissa Moretti. Klein, where did you go? Melissa asked curiously as she relaxed her eyebrows. Without waiting for Klein's reply, she added, "Just now I got up to go to bathroom and realized you weren't there home." It was as if she wanted to know everything clearly, from the cause and effect of the matter to the underlying logic. With great experience at lying to his parents, Klein's brain took a spin before he gave a bitter smile and calmly replied, "I couldn't fall asleep again after I woke up. Instead of wasting time, I decided I should train my body. So I went out to run a few rounds. Look at my sweat." He took off his jacket and half turned his body, pointing to his back. Melissa stood up, took a glance half-heartedly and deliberately for a few moments before saying, "Honestly speaking, Klein, you don't have to stress yourself out. I'm sure you can pass the interview to Tengen University, even if you can't. If you can still find better ones." "I haven't even thought about the interview," Klein nodded his head and said, "I understand." He did not mention the offer that he had gotten because he had not decided whether he wanted to join them or not. Staring at Klein intensely, Melissa suddenly turned around and trotted into the interior of the house. She took out an object that resembled a tortoise. It was comprised of items like gears, rusted iron, torsion springs, and ordinary springs. After quickly tightening the torsion springs, what the hell is that? If you know, please leave a comment. I don't know what torsion spring means. Uh, It was compromised. Okay, I read that. Melissa placed the object on the desk. Ka, 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 dum, dum, dum. The tortoise moved and jumped with a rhythm that could pull anyone's attention. Whenever I feel irritated, I feel pretty. What the fuck? I can't read for shit. Uh, Whenever I feel irritated, I feel much better seeing this tortoise move. I've been doing this very often recently, and it's very effective. Try and give it a try. He invited Melissa as her eyes brightened. Klein did not turn down his sister's goodwill. He approached the tortoise and waited for it to stop before laughing. He said, "Simplicity and regularity can indeed help relaxation." Without waiting for Melissa's reply, Klein pointed to the tortoise and casually asked, "Did you make this yourself? When did you make this? Why wasn't I aware of it?" "I made use of unwanted materials from school and things picked up from the streets to make this. It was only finished 2 days ago." Melissa said in her usual tone, the side of her lips upturned a few more degrees. "That's impressive," Klein praised sincerely. As a boy with poor skills in machine assembly, he encouraged great difficulties, even assembling a four-wheeler toy car as a child. With her chin slightly raised and her eyes slightly bent, Melissa calmly replied, "It was okay." "Being overly humble is a bad trait." Klein smiled slightly and continued, "This is a tortoise, right?" Instantly, the atmosphere in the room took a great plunge, leaving behind an air of graveness for a while. Then Melissa faintly replied with a voice that seemed enigmatic like the crimson veil, "It's a puppet." "Puppet?" Klein gave an awkward smile and tried to forcefully explain. "The problem lies in the materials. They are too rudimentary." Following that, he tried to change the topic and said, "Why would you why would you go to the bathroom in the middle of the night? Isn't there a toilet here? Don't you always sleep till dawn?" Melissa was taken aback momentarily. It was only after a few seconds before she opened her mouth, prepared to explain. At that moment, an intense sound of digestion sounded from her thro- thoracombodonial area. What the fuck is that? Man, this cuttlefish is. He just drops so much detailed shit like that, and I just can't comprehend it. I will go get some more sleep. Bank. She grabbed her tortoise like puppet, tottered into the interior of the house, and closed the door to her room. Last night's dinner was too good. She ate too much, and now her stomach is having trouble digesting it. Klein shook his head and she smiled. Slowly walking towards his desk, he sat down soundlessly, silently pondering Dunn Smith's invitation as the crimson red moon emerged from behind the dark clouds. Being a Nighthawk civilian staff member had its apparent disadvantages. With me being a transmigrator, the food initiator of the mystical gathering, and multiple secrets I have, it will be risky to be under the noses of the Church of the Evernight Goddesses team that specializes. What is wrong with my pronunciation? Specializes in. Let's just deal with that. In dealing with matters regarding the Beyonders. As long as I joined Dunn Smith and his team, I could certainly aim to become a Beyonder. I could then cover up the benefits gained from the gathering. Yet, becoming a former member would entail many restrictions on my freedom, like how a civilian staff has to report his leaving of Tingen. No longer would I able to go whenever I want, what wherever I want. I would miss many opportunities. The Nighthawks are a strict organization. Once a mission is given, I can only wait for the arrangements and accept orders. There's no room for rejection. Beyonders has the risk of losing control. Sorry. Having all the disadvantages listed out one by one, client turned to consider the necessity and advantages. Judging from the situation of the luck in Chat 2012, I'm not one of the 80% of lucky people in the future. There is bound to be some bizarre event happening to me. increasing the danger I face. Only by becoming one of the Beyonders or by joining the Night Hawks can I be equipped with the ability to resist. To wish to become a Beyonder cannot be solely silent on the gathering. The potion formula is not a major problem. But where can I find the corresponding materials? How am I to how am I to obtain and correct concoct them? Not forgetting the norms of daily practice, I faced with serious obstacles. It is just not possible for me to consult justice in the hangman on every matter and exchange every object with them. This would not only hurt the image of the fool and arouse their suspicion, but there will also be inadequate time to communicate on such trivial issues. Similarly, I am unable to produce anything that can pique their interest. Besides, more materials would more often than not leave behind the trail of my real identity. Then, online disputes would effectively be transformed into offline conflicts, bringing about immense troubles. By joining the Nighthawks, they would definitely be contract with the common knowledge of the world of the mystery and relevant channels. This can sufficiently accumulate into a corresponding social circle and can be used as leverage. Only then can I initiate the gathering and in turn gain the greatest benefits from justice and the hanged man. In reality, the gains can feed back into reality, allowing me to obtain more resources and form a vicious cycle. Of course, I could go to an organization that is suppressed by the various justices such as the psychology alchemists mentioned by Dunn and join them. Yet I will also lose my freedom and be in constant state of fear and anxiety. However, more importantly, I have no idea where to look for them. Even if I manage to gain the corresponding information from the hanged man, such rash contact with them could endanger my life. Becoming a civilian staff leaves opportunity for a buffer and exit. The inferior recluse hides away in the wild, the superior, the coward, perhaps the identity as a nighthawk can be a better cover. In the future, when I become one of the top authorities of the tribunal, who would imagine that I am a heretic, the head of a secret organization who is working behind the scenes? That's completely true. As the first rays of the morning sun shone, the crimson disappeared. Gazing at the golden light on the horizons of the sky, Klein made up his mind. He would find Dunn Smith today and become part of the Nighthawk civilian staff. At this moment, Melissa, who had gotten out of bed again, had pushed open the door to the room. She was surprised to see her brother stretching in an unglamorous manner. "You didn't sleep." "I was thinking through some things," Klein smiled, feeling relaxed. Melissa thought for a moment and said, "Whenever I encounter problems, I will list out both the pros and cons one by one and compare them. After that, I would be able to get a hint of what I should do next." "That's a good habit. I did that too," Klein smiled and replied. Melissa's countenance was relaxed and she did not add more. Holding a yellowish sheet of paper and her toiletries, she headed to the bathroom. Not in a hurry to leave after he finished his breakfast and his sister's departure, Klein took a good nap. Based on what he knew, nearly all the pubs were closed in the morning. At 2 o'clock in the afternoon, he smoothed the pleats of his silk hat and handkerchiefs using a small brush. He also removed the dirt to re-establish the tidiness. Therefore, he wore a suit of formal clothing, just like he had was going for an interview. Bes- Besic Street was a little far, and Klein was afraid that he would miss the working hours of the Nighthawk. Therefore, he did not walk there, but instead waited for public horse carriages at the Iron Cross Street. In Leon Kingdom, public horse carriages were placed under two categories: without track and with track. The former consisted of a carriage drawn by two horses and could sit approximately 20 people. While taking into account the top of the carriage, only a general route existed. Without specific situations, it had flexible operations and could be hailed anywhere unless it was full. The latter was operated by the Orbital Carriage Company. First, a rail-like service device was laid on the main street. The horses would move on the inner lane while the wheels ran on the tracks, making it easier and more labor-saving. This could thus pull a bigger double-decker carriage that sat nearly 50 passengers. They have some powerful horses. However, the only problem was that the route and stations were fixed, making many places inaccessible. After 10 minutes, the sound of the wheels hitting the tracks approached from a distance. A double-decker horse carriage stopped in front of the station at Iron Cross Street. To Besky Street, Klein said to the carriage driver. You have to transfer at Champagne Street, but when you get there, it takes about 10 minutes to walk to Besky Street, explained the carriage driver to Klein with regards to the route. Let's go to the Champagne Street then. Klein nodded in approval. It's more than 4 kilometers, 4 pence, said a young man with a fair and clean face as he extended his hand. It, he was a worker responsible for money collection. Okay, Klein fished out 4 copper coins and from his pocket and handed it to the other party. He walked up the carriage and found that there were not many passengers. Even on the first floor, there were a few empty seats. I only have 3 pence on me now, so I can only walk when I go back. Klein pressed his hat down and sat down firmly. On this floor, the men and women were mostly well dressed, although there were a few clothed in their work clothes, leisurely reading newspaper. Almost no one spoke, and it was quite quiet. Puns. Klein shut his eyes and recharged his strength, oblivious to the coming and going of passengers around him. Station after station passed until he finally heard the few words: Champagne, Champagne, whatever the fuck is that? Champagne Street. After alighting the horse carriage, he inquired along the way and soon reached Bessick Street, where he saw the pub with the brownish yellow hound logo. Klein reached out his right hand and gave a forceful push. The heavy door gradually opened in daunting to him with a wave of uproarious noises and an impervious heat wave. Although it was still afternoon, there were already many customers in the pub. Some were temporary workers looking for opportunities here, waiting to be hired. Others were simply idly around, numbing themselves with alcohol. Numbing themselves with alcohol. The pub was dimly lit. In the center, there were 2 large iron cages with a third of its bottom sinking deep into the ground without any gaps. People held wooden wine cups and surrounded it, sometimes discussing loudly while laughing, sometimes cursing loudly. Giving a curious glance, Klein found 2 dogs caged inside. One was black and white, similar to the husky found on the earth. The other was not fully black with shiny fur, making it look healthy and fierce. Do you want to bet? Dog had won 8 games in a row, said a little man wearing a brown beret as he neared Klein and pointed to the black dog. I don't know why. What the fuck happened? I just felt my sense of balance distorted and like the world was moving sideways or something like that. I don't know why. Am I in trouble? Am I in part of some ritual as well? I don't know. Taken aback at first, Klein regained his senses immediately. Dogfighting. When he was at Korea University, those aristocracies and wealthy students would always ask him contemptuously and curiously if the British workers and unemployed hooligans enjoyed participating in boxing and gambling at the pubs. Besides being able to gamble on boxing and card games, didn't it also include cruel and bloody activities like cockfighting, dogfighting, and others? The short man smirked. Mister, we are civilized people. We don't engage in such unglamorous activities. Having said that, he whispered, besides, laws were introduced to ban these things last year. Then what are you all betting on? Asked Frank curiously. The better hunter. Just as the short man finished his sentence, a resounding cacophony sounded. He turned his head, waved his hand excitedly, and said, you can't place a bet for this round as it has started. Wait for the next one, then. Upon hearing that, Klein tipped his toes, lifted his head, and looked as far as he could. He saw two strong men, each dragging a sack, coming to the side of the iron cage and opened the prison door. Then they dumped the contents of the sack into the cage. They were grey and disgusting animals. Klein tried to identify them carefully before realizing that they were rats. Hundreds of rats. As the iron cage was deep underground without any gaps, the rats moved in all directions but could not find a way out. Right then, just as the door of the cage was closed, the chain of the dogs were untied. Woof! The black dog pounced ahead and killed a rat in a one bite. The black and white dog was dazed at first before it could start playing excitedly with the rats. The surrounding people either raised their wine cups and intensifiedly gazed or shouted loudly, bite it, kill it, Doug, Doug. Oh, they're cursing as well. Motherfucking rat baiting with dogs. Klein regained his senses and corner of his mouth twitched unceasingly. The objective of the gamble is to determine which dog can catch more rats. Perhaps one can even bet on the specific number of the rats caught. No wonder there were people purchasing live rats at Iron Cross Street. That's really unique. Klein shook his head, laughing as he backtracked and circled along the edge of the alcoholic customer and reached the front of the bar. New here, said the bartender as he spared Klein a glance while wiping the cups. He continued, one cup of rye beer is a penny. A matte beer costs 2 pence, 4 pence for Southwild beer, or do you want a cup of purely brewed malt latte? Land tea. I came here for Mr. Wright, said Klein directly and bluntly. The bartender whistled and shouted to the side, old man, someone is looking for you. Oh, who? A weak voice sounded, and an intoxicated man stood up from behind the bar. He rubbed his eyes, shifted his gaze to Klein, and asked, lad, were you looking for me? Mr. Wright, I would like to hire a small mercenary squad for a mission, replied Klein according to what Dunn had instructed. A small mercenary squad? Are you living in an adventure story? This hasn't been around for a long time. The bartender interrupted and smiled. Wright went silent for a few seconds before saying, who told you to look for it here? Dunn Smith, replied Klein in all honesty. Instantly, Wright woke up in a chuckle and replied, I see, actually the small mercenary squad still exists, it's just in another form, with a more contemporary name. You can find it on the second floor of number 36, Zootland Street. Thank you, thanked Klein sincerely before he turned and squeezed out of the pub. Before he went out the pub, the alcoholic customer who surrounded him suddenly quieted down as they murmured. Doug was actually defeated. Defeated? Klein smiled and shook his head. Then he left quickly and found his way to nearby Sutherland Street after asking around. 30, 32, 34. Here. He counted the house numbers and walked into the stairwell. Going around the corner and slowly climbing up the stairs, he saw the vertical sign with the current name of the so-called small mercenary squad, Blackthorn Security Company. And that's the end of the video. And for how long the actual chapter is, I think I have done it in a record time. It was still longer than I had anticipated. I'm trying to do multiple chapters a day. I usually read whenever I want, but that's not working out, and I need more. I basically I have a Shadow Slave. I have already posted 5 or 6 chapters of Shadow Slave ahead of time, one chapter a day, but I don't have enough chapters of Lord of the Mysteries, so I'm trying to stack up on Lord of the Mysteries chapters. So we're going to read chapter number 17, which is called Special Operations Department. So Blackthorn Security Company. Ah, Upon seeing the signboard, client felt surprised yet found it reasonable. Man, what do I say about this? He shook his head and laughed before walking up the steps and knocking gently on the half-closed door with his right hand. Knock, knock, knock. The sound echoed slowly but rhythmically, but there was no response. Only a faint, stuttering sound could be heard. Knock, knock, knock. Klein repeated, only to be met with the same outcome. He switched to pushing the door, making the gap larger as he stared inside. A classic sofa, which might have been for serving guests, a soft fabric armchair, and a burly wood coffee table. There was a girl with brown hair behind a table right across, with her head drooped. Even though security company is just a guise, isn't this just too unprofessional? How long has this place been out of business? Right, you guys don't need any business. Client drew closer as he complained silently and knocked on the table just beside the girl's ears. Knock, knock. The brown haired girl sat up immediately and swiftly took the newspaper in front of her, covering her face. Tengen City, honest paper, nice name. Client silently read the title of the page facing him. The steam train service Soaring Express that directly reaches Constant City is starting operations today. Oh, come on. When will there be one that goes straight to Brindisai Bay? I really don't want to take the ship there again. It's too awful, really awful. Hey, who are you? The girl with brown hair read pretentiously and gave her opinion. As she spoke, she lowered the newspaper and revealed her bright forehead and light brown eyes, looking at Klein with a fawning and startled look. Hello, I am Klein Moretti and I am here at the invitation of Dunn Smith. Klein said as he took down his hat to his chest and bowed slightly. A brown-haired girl looked to be in her early 20s. She wore a light green Leon-style dress. She was set off with beautiful laces on her sleeves, collar, and chest. The captain? Alright, wait here for a moment, I will go get him. The girl screwed. What the fuck? Am I not able to read, or is a word such a word that people are unable to read? The girl scurried up and went into the room beside her. She didn't even serve a cup of water or anything. The level of service awareness is worrying. Klein smiled faintly as he waited at his spot. After 2 or 3 minutes, the brown haired girl opened the door and came out. She said with a sweet smile, Mr. Moretti, please follow me. The captain is on watch at the Canis gate and is unable to leave at the moment. Okay, Klein quietly followed behind. In his mind, he pondered to himself, Canis gate, what could that be? Going through the partition, the first thing he saw was a small corridor with only 3 offices on each side. Some of these offices were locked tight, while some were open, revealing someone on the inside who typed non-stop on a heavy mechanical typewriter. At a glance, Kine noticed a familiar figure, the young man who had investigated his apartment, the one with the black hair and blue eyes and romantic vibes of a poet. He was not in official wear, his white collared shirt was not tucked in, making for quite an unruly appearance. Perhaps he really is a poet. Klein nodded in greeting and was greeted with a smile. The brown haired girl pushed open the left office door at the end of the room and pointed inside, gibbering. We still have to go down a few levels. This office has no furniture in place, only a grayish white stone staircase that extended downwards. The 2 sides of the stairs were lit up by gas lamps. The stable glow dispelled the darkness and gave a sense of harmony. The brown haired girl, oh shit, I lost her voice. The brown haired girl walked in front, staring at her feet while walking carefully. Although I walk here often, I am still constantly afraid of falling down, trembling down like a barrel. You don't know, Leonard did such a folly on the first day of becoming a sleepless. The first day where he had not mastered his new powers, he tried to rush down the flight of stairs and he became a cartwheel. Ha ha ha. It was hilarious if you think about it. Oh, yes, it was the guy that greeted you just now. This was about 3 years ago. Speaking of which, I have been with the Nighthawks for 5 years. I was only 17 when I joined. The girl watched her steps as she spoke. Suddenly, she smacked her forehead and said, "I forgot to introduce myself. I am Roseanne. My father was a member of the Nighthawks who sacrificed himself in an accident 5 years ago. I suppose we are colleagues from now on." Yeah, colleague is the right word. We are not teammates since we are not beyonders. I hope to have the honor, but still it depends on what Mr. Smith has to say. Klein said as he sized up the enclosed surroundings. He felt that things were going underground, dampness seeping out from the stone walls, dispelling the summer heat. Don't worry, the fact that you came so far means the captain has agreed. I've always been a little afraid of him, even though he is admirable, a fatherly figure. I don't know why, but I'm still afraid. Roseanne spoke as though there was a piece of sweet in her throat. Klein answered humorously, "Isn't being afraid of a father normal?" "True," Roseanne said as she held the wall behind her around the bend. As they spoke, the two finished walking down the stairs and reached a stone paved floor. It was along aisles, both sides of the walls were mounted with gas lamps, surrounded by metal grants. Klein and Roseanne's shadow were elongated under elongated under the illumination. Klein keenly noticed that there was a dark sacred emblem every few meters, the emblem of the Ebonite goddess, a deep black background dotted with sparkling embellishments as they clustered precisely half the crimson moon. These emblems did not seem special, but walking between them gave Klein a sense of serenity. Roseanne also stopped talking, unlike her previous talkative state. Before long, an intersection appeared up front. Roseanne briefly introduced. "The path to the left will lead to the Selena's Cathedral. To the right are the armory, storeroom, and archives, and straight ahead is the Canis Gate." Saint Selena's Cathedral. Then Zootland Street is just behind the red Moonlight Street. Klein was a little stunned. Selena Cathedral of Red Moonlight Street was the headquarters of the Church of Ebonite Goddess in Tingen, a sacred ground where local followers yearned to visit, along with Holy Numeric's Cathedral of the Church of the God of Seas and Steam and Machinery in the suburbs, and the River and Sea Cathedral of the Church of Lord of Storms in North Tingen. They sustained the religious cycles in Tingen City and its affiliated towns and villages. Aware that his status made it unsuitable for him to ask more, Klein only listened silently. They passed the intersection and moved straight ahead. In less than a minute, a black iron split gate cart with 7 sacred emblems were seen. It stood there, heavy, cold, and domineering, like a giant guarding in the darkness. Canis Gate. Rosen reminded him and pointed at the room beside them, saying, "The captain is inside. Go on in by yourself." "All right, thank you," Klein replied politely. The room Roseanne was referring to was just in front of Kenny's gate. The windows were open, revealing the lit room inside. Klein took a deep breath to calm himself. "Knock, knock, knock. Come in." He heard Dunn Smith's deep and amiable voice. Klein opened and unlatched the door gently. There was only a table and 4 chairs inside. Dunn Smith, with his high hairline who was wearing the black coat from the previous night plus a gold watch chain around his chest, was reading the newspaper leisurely. Come and have a seat. Have you decided? Are you certain you must join us? You want to join us? Dunn smiled and asked as he put down the newspaper. Klein removed his hat and bowed. Then he sat beside the table and said, Yes, I am certain. Then take a look at this deed. Haha. People like to call it a contract now. Dunn pulled out the table drawer and took out two contract copies. There were not many clauses, and most of them had been mentioned by Dunn Smith. The emphasis were on the confidential clause. Violators were tried to the tribunal courts of the Church of the Evernite Goddess instead of the Kingdom's court. It was akin to how soldiers and officers were sent to court martial for trials. A 5-year contract, £2 and 10 soles for weekly wages, and 10 soles as compensation for the risk and confidentiality. Client read through it and answers, man, what the fuck is wrong with you, and why can't I read properly? And now I lost my place, man. Oh my god, what is happening? Okay, yes. Client read through it and answered resolutely, I have no problems with it. Then sign it, Dunn said as he pointed to the dark red fountain pen and ink. Klein used a piece of waste paper to dry out the pen before drawing a breath. He signed on both contracts with his client Moretti. As he did not have a stamp yet, he could only use his thumbprint. Dunn received the contract, took out a stamp from the drawer, and stamped on both ends of the contract and a few key parts. With that done, he stood up and returned a contract with one hand and reached for Klein with the other, saying, Welcome. From now on, you are one of us, and please note that the contract is confidential as well. Klein stood up as well. He received the contract, shook his hand, and said, So I shall be addressing you as Captain? Yes, Dunn's grey eyes seemed especially deep in the dim surroundings. After shaking hands, they sat down. Klein glanced at the stamp on the contract. It read, Nighthawk Squad, Tingen City, Awa County, Leon Kingdom. I can't believe you guys would use the name Blackthorn Security Company as a disguise. He laughed and said, Actually, we have other signboards. Then pulled out a piece of paper from the drawer. It was stamped with the stamps of the city government and police department. The content were as follows: 7th Unit Special Operations Department, Awa County Police, Leon Kingdom. The first four units are the regular police, reasonable for general security like the VIP protection unit and the key installations protection unit, and from unit 5 onwards are the ones dealing with the supernatural incidents in each city. Our unit is responsible for incidents related to the followers of Evernight Goddess in Tingen. If there are different types of followers, then we divide the area accordingly. We are mainly in charge of places like the North, West, and the Golden Indus region. Then briefly introduce Unit 6 of the mandated Punisher Squad under the Church of the Lord of Storms is in charge of the Pier region, the East and the South. The university area and the suburbs are under Unit 5, which is the Machinery Hive Mind Squad in Tingen. Right, Klein had no question about it. He then laughed. What happens if someone really comes here due to the Blackthorn Security Company signboard and request for our services? We'll take those requests. Why shouldn't we? As long as it doesn't affect our daily operations, Dunn said slowly and humorously. Any earnings would be considered additional bonuses, so our members are quite willing to take those jobs. Anyway, the market for trivial and troublesome matters such as finding dogs and cats have been monopolized by private detectives. So, how many people are there in the Nighthawk Squad? Klein asked since they were on this topic. There aren't many supernatural incidents, so there are even fewer Beyonders. There are only 6 formal members of the Nighthawks in the entire Tingen city, including me. As for civilian staff, there are 6, including you. Klein nodded his head and eventually asked the question that he was most concerned about. So, Captain, what do you mean by Beyonders losing control? Why does it happen? And that's the end of the video. And Oh, sorry, that's the end of the chapter and also the end of the video. And it was a great chapter. I kind of speed read through it because I need to upload more videos and I don't currently have the time. I'm a little bit too sleepy and I also have to read Shadow Slave after this, so I just read quickly through it. But it was a great video. And I don't have any overall thoughts for this. I mean, not much happened in it. They just mainly described the location he went through, and yeah, he just signed some contracts and he joined them. That's as simple as that. So, if you like the content, please consider liking the video, sharing this video with people who might also like this content, and subscribing the channel. Till then, I will see you next time. Take care and goodbye.